we discussed last evening. We looked at the 4 types of strength: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. You are paripurna, totally full. And you must assert this in your mind again and again. And only then it takes root. We looked at the waking, dream, and deep sleep states, and how all 3 are neither real nor unreal. Death and birth are decided by you. There is no other outside force that decides it. Of course, it's not conscious. Had it been conscious, it would be suicide. That is, excuse me, that is not what we recommend. And while you're living, you have to use this principle of assess the world, people, things around you, accept them as they are, and enjoy life. So with this, we continue with verse 28.
Avyaktādīni bhūtāni vyaktamadhyāni bharata avyaktanidhanānyeva tatra ka paridevana.
O Bharata, beings arise from the unmanifest, remain in the manifest, in the middle, and end in the unmanifest. Where then is the sorrow? So this cycle of manifestation, going back into the unmanifest, and again coming into manifestation, goes on over and over again, fueled by vasanas, desires, yes. So, I don't know how many of you have noticed, once the rains stop, particularly near Mumbai, I'm sure it's the same case here, you go out into the hills and it's dry, barren, brown. And when the monsoon starts the next time, just the first rains, suddenly the whole scenario changes. It's covered in a blanket of green and it looks so beautiful. So the seeds or the vegetation goes into the unmanifest seed form when there's no water, and at the slightest hint of water starts manifesting. So during the 4 months of the monsoon, it's all green, and again it goes back into the unmanifest. This happens. You know, in Mumbai, I've been walking early morning on Marine Drive. That's a stretch along the sea for many decades. And when I first started walking, I was in my 20s. Young, brisk walker, walking fast. And then there was a generation above me, and then there were the really elderly people. After a period of time, those elderly disappeared, and the in-between ones, middle-aged ones, became elderly. We became middle-aged, and then there was a fresh generation that started. And this is what is going to happen. You see that? Generation after generation comes and goes. That's what he's saying here. Matthew Arnold has said that life is like an arrow shot from the darkness. It flutters for a while in the light and goes back into the darkness. So the whole thing is a mystery. We don't know where we've come from. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what the purpose of our existence is. Like Matthew Arnold said, we just flutter in the light for a while and go back. Where? Nobody knows. When? You don't know. So since all this is in the unknown, what must you do? While you're alive, while you're here, just do what you ought to do. And that is the most beautiful thing. You know, there's a poem called The Olive Tree. It describes two hermits in their respective caves meditating. And both decide that they need olive oil to light the lamp to pray. And so to get olive oil, both planted olive seeds, hoping that they would grow into olive trees and then they would get the oil. So the first sage planted the olive seed and then prayed, now for sunshine, now for rain. Whatever he prayed for, God granted. But in the end, his olive tree died. And then he noticed that his neighbor's olive tree was thriving. So he went and asked his neighbor, he said, what did you do, brother? He said, I planted the olive seed and I did my bit. And I left the rest. Because he who made knew what it needed better than a man like me. And this is beautiful because you must have this attitude of surrender. Do your bit and leave the rest to God. Or if you don't believe in God, leave the rest to nature. Nowadays there are mothers who are getting so anxious about their children. Oh, I don't know if my child has had enough protein today and vitamin B12 today and calcium today. Do your bit and leave the rest. To be sure that you know is the height of arrogance. So, maintain this at all times. That this is what life is about. I don't know so many things. But one thing is for sure, there is no place for sorrow in life. Next verse.
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्.
One marvels at the sight of this. Another speaks of it as wonderful. Another hears of the mystery. Even after hearing, none understands this. So, this verse has been lifted directly from the Kathopanishad. See, the Upanishads came many centuries before the Bhagwat Gita, and the Bhagwat Gita is a kind of explanation and elaboration of the message of the Upanishads. So there are several portions of the Bhagavad Gita that have been taken literally from some Upanishad or the other. This is one example. Now, Atman, the spirit, that God principle in each one of us, is immanent, which means it pervades every aspect of the universe. Every nook and corner of the universe is pervaded by Atman. It is transcendent. It exists beyond the universe in its pristine state. Unmanifest. There is no manifestation. It just is. And exists. So the same thing within us. It enlivens every aspect of our body, mind and intellect and exists beyond it. So there is no way of understanding Atman, seeing Atman, feeling Atman. There is no way you can connect with Atman. But the only thing you can do is attune to Atman through this spirit of wonderment. This is what he's saying. Ashcharya. There are so many things in the world that should put you in this state of wonderment. If you're at a low level of development, you need a stunning manifestation to say, to get into that Ashcharya. Like the mighty Himalayas, there are regions in the Himalayas when you go, this stunning. Or you go to the Niagara Falls or some outstanding feature of nature, and then you say, there is God. If you're at a higher level of development, a sunrise or a sunset is enough to spark you off into that reflection, Ashcharya, wonderment. Who made this mighty sun? Who maintains this whole universe? At a very high state, a flower is enough to set you off. And at the highest state, you don't need any manifestation because you are in a constant state of attunement, 100% attunement with Atman. See, it's like this. When internet first was introduced, do you remember what it was like? It was a dial-up service. And you kept trying and trying and trying. And finally you got connected. And by the time you got connected, you got disconnected. Remember that? It was so frustrating. Many of us are like that. We come here, we learn the second chapter of the Gita, one verse here, one verse there, you get connected, and before you know it, you get disconnected. Then came cable, which was far more reliable. So those of us who have been exercising this for some time, managed to retain this thought of the higher for a longer period of time. Then came broadband. That was much better. So these are people at a high level of spiritual development who don't need reminders. By themselves they get into this reverie of Atman. And then came, now what do you have? Wi-Fi. And in the United States, the entire university has Wi-Fi. Which means you're in constant connect with Atman, irrespective of the manifestation. You don't need any expression. So slowly, we need to build ourselves up to that. We are somewhere near dial-up service. So this wonderment, what is this wonderment? There are miracles happening all around us in the world, but we are blind to it because we are only thinking of what's for dinner tonight. Or which movie do I watch on Netflix? I don't know. Strange things like that hold our attention, and so we miss this wonderful splash of divinity that exists everywhere. Robert Browning called it imprisoned splendor. All of us have that splendor, but it's imprisoned in the selfishness. Then, when you get into this state of wonderment, you get detached. So that's what he's saying here. First, you hear about it, like now you're hearing. Then you're inspired by it. You go home tomorrow morning, you recollect what we discussed, I hope. And you get inspired. Then you talk about it. This is why I keep telling you, go back home and spread this. Invite your friends, relatives, neighbors, anybody, and say, here is this wonderful second chapter that I've been exposed to. You also come. Please do that, because tomorrow is the last day and we've saved the best for last. We haven't saved. The verses are like that. The best is coming tomorrow. So you don't miss it, and make sure you get other people with you. But the truth is, throughout the Gita Upanishads, they keep saying, Yaha pashyati saha pashyati. Means, he who sees, sees. If you don't see it, tough luck. But if you are able to get into that frequency, oh my God, you're so blessed. Because that takes away the sting from living life. It makes life worthwhile. It gives you that strength to bear with life's challenges and obstacles, and you go through it cheerfully. And then you take that mighty leap into the infinite. So it's like this, on a bright, cloudless sky, clear sky, you look up and see a crescent moon. You know what a crescent moon is? It's like. And you want to show it to your friend. And you keep saying, see, there, he can't see. So you say, okay, come here. You see that field there? He said, yes. You see that tree at the end in the corner? He says, yes. You go up the trunk, and the second branch on the right, you get it? He says, yes. You go to the end of the branch, and there is a twig going up. You see that? He said, yes. And at the end of that twig are two leaves fluttering in the breeze. Do you see that? He says, yes. And then you say, now, look between the leaves. Huh? He looks between the leaves and, yes, I see it. I see the crescent moon. Now, the field is nowhere near the moon. The tree has nothing to do with the moon. The branch, the twig, the leaves are thousands of miles away from the moon. Yet, with the help of all of this, you are able to point out the crescent moon to your friend. Right? In the same way, friends. All this wonderment, you look at a flower, you marvel at it, you look at the sunrise, the sunset, a full moon. What was it called recently? Blood moon. So on and so forth. All this has nothing to do with Atman, very far removed from Atman. But exactly like the two leaves fluttering in the breeze, these are pointers. And then you've got, as long as you get stuck with the leaves, you don't see the crescent moon. You got to look between the leaves. Similarly here, you got to look beyond. You look there, you see this wonderful manifestation of nature, and then you have to take that mighty leap into the unknown. And then you see, what do you see? Yaha pashyati saha pashyati. He who sees, sees the grandeur, the wonderment, the magnificence of this entire manifestation. Someday, I hope you see it. We must all strive to get there. But, now you take the other extreme. A person at a very low level of development, even the Himalayas doesn't inspire him. He looks at the Himalayas and says, when I get married, I must come here for my honeymoon. And you say, hey Ram, this is his condition. So, you've got to train yourself to see this. Wonderment. Next verse 30.
Dehi nityamavadyoyam Dehe sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitum arhasi.
O Bharata, throughout the Bhagwat Gita, he keeps inspiring Arjuna and all of us with names like this, Bharata. You were born in this most wonderful country where our heritage, our culture is to revel in the light of Atman, not to go hanging around malls, please. You can go shop in a mall, you can do what you want, but never forget this heritage of Bharata. This, the indweller in all bodies, can never be killed. Hence, you should not mourn for any being. So, from verse 11 onwards, he's harping on this. Verse 11, he says, the wise grieve neither for the living nor for the dead. 25 to 28, he's constantly harping, don't grieve, don't grieve, don't grieve. And now 30 is the final punch of this topic. Again, he says, you should not mourn for any being. Why? Because all of us are grieving. All of us are sorrow-stricken for something or the other. Some reason or the other. And you think you've got a justified reason. But you don't understand what the real reason is, that you lack this ability to be happy, cheerful, blissful. And why is it that you lack it? Because of lack of unselfishness. It is a law that all selfish people will be miserable. The moment you think of yourself, you're afraid, you're unhappy, you're discontent. Think of others, think of a higher cause, think of something beyond you. And even if it is a hopeless thing, you're never going to get it. Still, you're happy. So that's what it is. All selfish people are unhappy. This is a law. The moment you turn unselfish, you're happy. And when you become selfless, you get to that state of infinite bliss. When he says Dehi, indweller, he's referring to, you can interpret it as subtle body and causal body, means mind, intellect and vasanas. Because that is what shifts from one body to another. Atman doesn't move. Atman remains. Atman is present even in the dead body, Atman is present in the new individual. Atman is present everywhere. The body is there. What is missing is the internal engine, the mind, intellect and vasana. So it goes on. What are you grieving for? And why has it moved? It's moved to a better place, a better body, a better circumstance that is more conducive for fulfillment of that person's desires. It's like a promotion. When your son goes to New York to study and gets a job there, do you sit there crying, oh, I lost my son? You go boasting to everybody, my son is in NYU and he's got a great job, so on and so forth. He's not there with you. That's the thing. So, live a life based on obligation. Whatever be your duty, whatever be your obligation, as you see it, as your conscience directs you, do it. And it's the most beautiful thing. In the book and the movie called Ultimate Gift, there is this billionaire who dies. And his children and grandchildren and all that come to pay respects to him. Nobody really loved it. But why are they coming? To know how much money they get from the old man's estate. So they all come and the lawyer of that old man is there telling people this is what you've got. And they all go disappointed because they haven't really got very much. And they're wondering who the recipient of the rest of his estate is. And then one grandson, young man, comes late. And he goes to meet the lawyer And the lawyer says, "You're late, young man." He sits there, puts his feet up on the table most disrespectfully. And he says, "Yeah, the old man didn't like me very much in his lifetime, and I don't think I'm getting anything from his estate either. But I've come just to show my face." The lawyer says, "You're mistaken, son. You are the chosen one." So he says, "What have I got?" He says, "You've got this." It's a video that he plays of the grandfather speaking to him. And he tells him, "You're going to be put through various tests. And as you pass the test, you get some money. But at that moment, everything has been taken away from him. His credit cards, cash, this, that, everything is gone. He's a poor man. The one thing he gets is an air ticket to go to some corner of Africa and meet the grandfather's friend. And no hard labor there in the hot sun. So he's used to sitting first class in one particular seat. So he doesn't even look at his boarding pass. He goes and sits there. The air hostess comes and says, "Sorry sir, coach class." What Shashi Tharoor refers to as cattle class. So he's shocked. That's the first shock he gets. Anyway, he has no choice, but he goes and sits there. And like this, when he works hard, he understands the pleasure of hard work because his entire life he has not worked. The billionaire's grandson. But he passes the test, he gets a little money, then he goes on and on and on. He passes more tests, and finally he gets a check of $1 million, and that check is in his pocket. And he goes out into the garden and sees a little girl and her mother, and that girl is suffering from cancer. And the mother is trying desperately to get the money to pay for her treatment. When he sees that little girl for the first time in his life, he thinks of someone other than himself. So he gets an idea, and he goes to the trustees of his grandfather's estate and says, "I want to start a trust for children suffering from cancer to help them. And I need from the estate $3 million. And the project is $4 billion. So the trustees ask him, "You're asking us for $3 million. Where are you going to get the balance $1 million? He says, "I will give it." And he pulls out his check. You know what he's done? He has pledged his entire assets, because he's worth only that $1 million, to the trust. And that moment, the entire $8 billion of his grandfather comes to him. So why am I telling you this? The message is, and the law is, this is what Vedanta, the Bhagwat Gita talk about. And you must go home convinced about this. And that is, give, you gain. Grab, you lose. And when I say give, it's not just money, please. Don't look at it from the narrow perspective of money. It's the attitude of giving that you must cultivate, whether you give anything or not. And what must you give? Your heart, your soul, your entire being. And the more you give, the more you receive. That is why in our culture, in our scriptures, we have stories of Sudama who went to Krishna and gave a handful of poha. Now what did he get? His wife and children were in luxury, and he got realization. Similarly, Shabari, the poor tribal woman, who when she heard that Ram was going to pass by, she was so excited. She wanted to give him something. But she had nothing. So she looked up and saw berries on the trees. She plucked those berries And then the thought came, what if they're not sweet? How can I give something that is not sweet to the Lord? So she did something that is totally unacceptable in our culture, and that is she tasted every berry before she offered it to the Lord. And the beautiful thing about it is the Lord accepted this devout offering. Again, what did she get in return? Realization. Now don't get the wrong end of the stick, please. Don't make a thing Juta and give it to people. That won't work. Don't give poha. In the Bhagwat Gita, the 9th chapter, he says, you have nothing to give, don't worry. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Oh, what a beautiful verse it is. Patram, a leaf. Pushpam, a flower. Phalam, fruit. If you don't have any of this, you live in a concrete jungle. A few drops of water. But that must be given wholeheartedly. So what are you giving? Not the leaf, the fruit, the flower. You're giving your entire being. And what do you get? The totality. You surrender the individuality and you take on the totality. Where do you begin? Become a giver. Why must you give? Because you jolly well owe it. You're a hopeless debtor in life. You have received so many things in life for free and in abundance. From where, from whom, you have no idea. But that you have received, you must know. And therefore, start to finish, every moment of your life, you must entertain the thought of giving wherever you go, whoever you meet, whatever you do. But that is not what we do, just the opposite. Wherever we go, we look at grabbing. How can I grab? Isn't that so? That's why marketers, manufacturers also know this is your psychology. So they play on you. Huh? Buy one, get one free. Freebies they keep offering. Remember one thing in life, there are no freebies in life. Nothing comes for free. So, start giving. And then, that gives you the power. And that makes you objective. And you live life with that inner power. And things start going right for you. You know, like in that movie, Pursuit of Happiness. I'm sure you've all seen it. This guy is desperate for a job, and for some reason he happens to have lost his shirt somewhere along the way. So he goes for an interview, a job interview, with no shirt. And there is a panel of 7 interviewers, senior managers of the company, suited, booted, everything, interviewing this guy. And the old man asks him, why do you think we should give a job to a guy who's not wearing a shirt? And he answers, because he's wearing outstanding trousers. And he gets the job. Please don't try this stunt. So what is working here is objectivity. When you're objective, you somehow work around all kinds of situations and problems, and you achieve. That is the power that you get when you become a giver. And then life is entertaining. Look at Krishna's life itself, forget his message. He had to face so many problems. As an infant, his grandfather, his own grandfather, was plotting to kill him. And nobody knew what was happening. He had to protect himself. And right through his life, he faced so many obstacles and situations. Never was he downcast, never was he agitated, never was he dejected or depressed. He was full of cheer, joy, mirth, and mischief. And his very personality was so attractive that everybody left what they were doing and went running to him. This is what you will become if you practice just 10% of this message. It's like Shiva. When Shiva realized he couldn't hold this cheer within himself, so out came the cosmic dance. And he was overflowing with that joy, mirth, and happiness. And that's how you'll be. How are you today? Pulling along with, there is so much traffic in Delhi. See, if you're worried about traffic, why don't you go live in a village? Or in the mountains, there's no car only, so there will not be any traffic. But you want to live in Delhi. You want to have 5 cars at your disposal. You want the good life of Delhi, but you don't want traffic. Not possible. Because like you, there is millions of other people in Delhi. So, that's the thing. Next verse, 31.
स्वधर्ममपि चावेक्ष्य न विकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्याधियुद्धा श्रेयोऽन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते.
Even from the viewpoint of your own dharma, duty, you should not deserve, because there is nothing higher than a just war for a kshatriya. With this verse, we enter the 4th topic of this chapter, perform your duty, verses 31 to 41. So what is Krishna telling Arjuna? He says, you're a warrior and you're faced with a just war. You're fighting for righteousness, not to fill your coffers. And this is your swadharma, you're a kshatriya. For a kshatriya, there is nothing as exciting as a war. War means not that you must fight, but a just war. And on top of that, you don't know the totality, so it's absurd to take a stand. It's like if you are a player in a huge orchestra, okay? You have a small bit to play. I don't know whether you're playing a flute or whatever, some instrument. And you don't even know the whole piece. You only know that you have to follow the conductor. Now in an orchestra, some people have a bigger role, some people have a smaller role, then there is the lead singer, then there is the chorus. If each musician says, no, I want a big role, and he changes the whole music, what is going to happen? There will be chaos, noise, not orchestra. But it's done so beautifully. The conductor comes on stage and he starts, and every musician knows his or her part and plays it to the best of their ability. And what a magnificent performance there is. And there is a standing ovation at the end. This is how the world is designed, friends. It's one big, beautiful orchestra. And in that, every one of us has a role to play. It doesn't matter whether it's big or small. Just as in the orchestra, every musician adds to the beauty of the performance. Similarly, in this world, every one of us adds to the magnificence of this world. Just play your part. The moment you start interfering, you ruin the whole thing. You play your part, the totality will take care of itself. You don't know so many things, but there is one thing you know for sure, that you have taken from society, you have benefited from your family members, from your parents, your siblings, you, the nation, nature, the whole world. And therefore, you have an obligation to repay. That's all there is. Be grateful for all that you received and do your little bit. Repay means not your repay, you cannot repay. How can you repay your parents for all the love and care that they've given you? Just one entity and look at it. And when you look at the whole thing, impossible. But you can give a token. And that token is enough. Token is not just a small thing, please. Token is not like going and giving a flower. Token is giving your best, doing your best. Wherever you are placed, whatever be your talent, do your best. Next verse.
यदृच्छया चोपपन्नं स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतं सुखिनः क्षत्रिया पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम्.
O Partha, those Kshatriyas are happy to whom a war like this comes unsolicited, opening the gates to heaven. So Arjuna hasn't asked for it, it's come to him. They are not warmongers. And it's the nature of a Kshatriya is to fight for righteousness. It's come fallen in his lap. And it is his swadharma. He is an active person. See, there are two broad categories of people. One, active, because they have a lot of desires. The other, contemplative. Those who do research, those who are philosophers, teachers, preachers, scientists. He doesn't belong to that category. He is a man of action. So he must act for a cause, a higher cause. And then his desires will reduce and he will evolve spiritually. That's why he says, opening the gates to heaven. Oliver Goldsmith has said, I felt a secret pleasure in doing my duty without reward. You don't look for a reward, you don't look for appreciation. You just do what you have to do. Just as every element in nature. When a bird sings, it doesn't look for appreciation or applause. It just sings. When a peacock dances, it doesn't look for people to appreciate its dance. It just does what it has to. Why are we looking for a return? Like every element in nature, you do what you have to do and find fulfillment in that. That's the message. But that's not what we do. We don't do our bit. We interfere with what other people are doing or not doing. And we're constantly looking for appreciation. For what? For just doing your bit? The act itself is the reward. When you act with your heart and soul for a higher cause, that action itself is the reward, because in the action, in acting, you become a purified person. You become purified of desire and vasana. That is enough reward now. And incidentally, when you act like this, your action becomes perfect, the reward does come to you. Next verse.
अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं सङ्ग्रामं न करिष्यसि तदा स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि.
If you do not take on this just battle, you will incur sin, having failed in your duty and honor. Now you see, in the first chapter, Arjuna says, if I fight this battle, I will incur sin. Now he is saying, Krishna is telling him, if you do not fight the battle, you will incur sin. You, in 32, the previous verse, he says, perform right action, you will get heaven. Here he says, it's wrong action if you don't perform your duty, and you will incur sin. So, sin is not in the action, it is in the reaction. When you perform an action, and that action boomerangs back on you as regret, as guilt, as mental agitation, then it is sin. Even if no one else knows. But you perform an action dedicated to a higher cause, again, even if nobody knows it, you feel supremely happy. You feel great because it has purified you, gets you heaven. So, you must first identify your Swadharma, and this is very, very important. Swadharma means your own nature. Every one of us is born with a particular skill, a certain talent, certain ability, inborn. And that is our Swadharma. Some people are born with musical talent. Another person like Sachin Tendulkar was born with cricketing talent. Third person, accountancy, whatever it is. Identify that and then act in that field, dedicating your actions to a higher cause. That's all that you can do. And that is right action. Then you're free from likes and dislikes. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. See, whatever it is that you're doing, even if it is your own Swadharma and you have a passion for it, you love it, there will always be areas within that which you don't like. And there will be others which you like. You can't act on your likes and dislikes. You should act on the clear counsel of the intellect. Wrong action is you choose paradharma, means a field alien to your nature. Many of us do that. Why? Because you believe there's money in it.